Hello there, YouTube. So, I have a tag video for you today. It's a bookish tag video, and it was started by Steve Donoghue. So, links to his channel. Not that you need a link to his channel. I've spoken about Steve many times, but link to his channel in the description, obviously. This is the Rootin Tootin June on the range tag. I apologise for the barking dog. I will try to filter that out if I can, but I can't guarantee anything. Hopefully it's too quiet for you to really make it out. So, Rootin Tootin June on the range tag. Now, I'm going to be taking part in June on the range this June. I've got my books planned out, which you'll be seeing in like not a haul video, but a bookish video explaining my plans for June on the range. But we'll talk about that in a different video. For now, let's just sort out the tag and answer some questions. So there are 9 questions. Let's see where it goes. Question 1: Away out west. Have you ever been to the American West? No. I've only visited America a few times, and I've stayed entirely on the East Coast. I do know a lot of people in America, and I've spoken to so many people across the United States, Canada. Never met anyone from Mexico. Met a couple of people from South America. But yeah, I know loads of people from the area. I've met people both in person and online. But I've never actually been any further west than Florida, which gives you an idea as to just how little of America I've seen. I'd love to go back and actually see more of the continent, but I can't really travel as much as I'd like. There's a lot of places I haven't visited, actually. I've barely left the country. I did as a teenager quite a bit. I did a fair bit of travelling as a teenager. I went to America, travelled around Europe. I've never been outside of Europe and the Americas, though. And I'd like to. But at this point, I'm approaching 40 and I'm very aware of my medical issues. So it might not happen. At the same time, if it doesn't, it's not a big deal for me because I can travel digitally. I can meet people on the internet, and I can see photographs and video, and that's enough that I feel like I get enough of an experience. There's a whole world of experiences out there, so I don't need to travel. It would be a nice thing to do, though. Maybe if my health improves. Question 2. Dry Gulch. What is the smallest town you've ever visited? How small is your town right now? The smallest town I've ever been in is probably Bryn Shenkin. Which is a town in Anglesey in Wales with a population of about 600 people. It is absolutely tiny. And I spent the night there with a friend, and it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. When you're in a town that small, it feels like there's nothing around you. They had like one main shop that was also a post office. There's one main pub, there was a school, and some houses, and that was it. And like getting a bus backwards and forwards to this town, like the bus stop was just there, and there's just fields and bushes and trees and nothing around you. It's like it's almost like you're taking on faith that the bus is going to show up. Like for me, who's always been a stone's throw from a city, it was weird. How big is my town right now? Well, I'm in my hometown. And it's, I believe, somewhere around 200,000 people. And I live just outside Liverpool. So Liverpool's got about 1.5 million people in it. So pretty big. Question 3. Where the buffaloes roam, have you ever seen an American bison in person? Or what is the largest hoofed animal you've ever seen? Or do you have evidence that you live near coyotes? I've never seen an American bison. I don't believe there are any coyotes in Britain, so that'll be a no to that. And the largest hoofed animal you've ever seen. Now, I've got a bone to pick here. Multiple people have answered hippo. Is hippo actually a hoofed animal? I thought they had feet, not hooves. Because every time I've seen a hippo portrayed in anything, they always portray them as having like feet rather than hooves. So I didn't think hippo would be an acceptable answer. Either way, the answer that I would be giving would be giraffe. So that would be the largest hoofed animal I've seen. I might be wrong about the hippo. I probably am, because multiple people have said it. So hippo must be a hoofed animal for that many people to have answered it. And given I've never seen one, not in person anyway, yeah, that's probably it. 4. Old Doc Fry. What's your history with westerns, novels, TV, movies? My history with westerns is really, really sparse. I have never read any western novels at all, as far as I'm aware. Like, nothing that I would consider a western. TV shows, I've seen a few TV shows that are like neo-westerns, things like Firefly, for example, which is a space western, and what was that TV show with the robots in the Old West? I can't remember what it's called now. Westworld. I've seen some of that. That was interesting. I watched a little bit of like Cowboy Bebop, which is an anime set in like the West. Looking up like the biggest Western TV shows, like I've seen pretty much none of these: Yellowstone, Django, The English, 1883, Frontier, Hell on Wheels, Preacher, Deadwood, Firefly I've mentioned. I did watch a little bit of Little House on the Prairie. Does that count as a western? It's listed on this list. Lone Ranger. No, never really watched that. So there's a few on here that I could. I was going to watch Winona Earp at one point, but I never got round to it. So TV shows, very little. Films, even less. There was a few that I like. Like I watched Quigley Down Under with my dad when I was a kid, and it's not really an Old West because it's set in the Australian outback, but I really like that. Also, The Fortress, which again, not really a western, but it's set in the Australian outback, and it's about a teacher and all the school kids that are taken hostage by a few people, and they've got to kind of work in the ruggedness of the outback to escape. Not really a western, but it's got elements that I would associate with westerns. Quigley Down Under is very much a western. It's set in the same time period. It's about a lone gunman, going against a corrupt state. There's very much cowboys in it. It feels like that would be a western if it was set in the old American West. Films actually set in the old American West, very few. Tarantino, I've watched Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, so there's those. I did see Wild Wild West with Will Smith, which I still think is amusing and fine, but I know that a lot of people consider that a trash film, but still, I thought it was fun. Hardly high art, but that's not the point. Like I say, I've never read a Western novel, and when it comes to video games, I've played a fair bit of Red Dead Redemption, but that's about it. So that's about the extent of my my Old West exposure. It's very, very minimal, and yet I feel like I know the genre. I just know the tropes, almost like they were passed down by osmosis, which is weird, but it does feel that that's just the way it is. So, next question. Question 5. Diamond Lil at the Rialto Saloon. What's your relationship with alcohol? Ever had a friendship with a bartender? I can't imagine anyone who hasn't had a friendship with a bartender. Bartenders is a common job. You know someone who's worked at a bar, surely. But yeah, my future brother-in-law was a bartender for a very long time, so definitely there. And not just a bartender, actually. He worked at a bar at an airport, which is, I imagine, extremely stressful with all different people using different currencies and speaking different languages, and the stress of being in an airport. I can't imagine that's an easy job. But yeah, my relationship with alcohol, I don't really have one. I barely drink. I did drink when I was younger. When I was a teenager, early 20s, when I went off to uni, I was quite a heavy drinker for a while. I used to drink pints of Guinness, whiskies, liqueurs, absinthe. I quite enjoyed absinthe. And I could go through like cognacs and absinthe at quite a rate, and because of that, I built up a big tolerance. And I'm a huge guy, like 6'6" and over 400 pound. I'm a massive guy. I wasn't over 400 pound then, but I was still well over 6 foot tall, and likely probably well over 250 pounds. I was a big guy when I was at uni, so I could really hold my alcohol. Like, I could drink my way through 10 pints comfortably in an evening without really feeling it, which is a lot of alcohol when you think about it. Like 10 strong pints of Guinness or something like that, or a good strong like ruby ale. I'm not talking lagers, not the piss water that a lot of people drink. Like, not only that, like people drink all these piss water lagers like Budweiser, and then they come out with Bud Light, which is a lighter version of Budweiser. How do you get lighter than the piss water beer that is Budweiser? Like, how do you get lighter than already piss water beers? I don't understand the American obsession with light beer. Like, there's Bud Light and Miller Lite and Coors Light, and why are there so many light beers? Are you allergic to flavour? So yeah, that was my old relationship. Now I barely drink. I might have a couple of drinks if I've got a friend over, or my brother's visiting, and it'll be once or twice a year at most. I have a bottle of Southern Comfort in the fridge. It's been there for 3 months. It still isn't open. I'll go through maybe a bottle a year at most. So yeah, that's my relationship with alcohol. 6. The City Slicker from back east. What do you consider the best Western you've ever read? Well, I can't answer that one because I've never read one. Hopefully, by the end of this month, I will have read 5 at least, so I'll be able to answer that. So that'll be interesting. Hold the answer for that one. I'll have one for you in a month. 7. The Man with the Badge. Have you ever been in charge of other people? What's the most authority you've ever held? And would you be good at it? I've never held any formal authority. I've never been in a position of authority. I've never really had the power to lord over anyone else, unless you consider like online communities. I've regularly been like a moderator on forums and chat rooms, things like that, for various different communities, which is the tiniest bit of authority. Like moderators and administrators on websites really do need to be slapped upside the head, because they really think that they own the world, like trying to control how people communicate backwards and forwards, like adults having a normal discussion, like, you're going off topic, take the stick out your arse. So yeah, I tried not to be like that as a moderator on various different websites when I've been involved. But other than that, I've had no real authority, and I don't want it. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very passionate person, and I can get like really in depth on things. Like, I get very politically active. I get very emotional. I have a lot of opinions, and I wouldn't want the position that I was holding to be tainted by people's perception that my passions and my perspective is changing that. I would like to think I'd be very, very fair, but at the same time, I'm also aware that I wouldn't appear to be very fair from the outside. So I don't want any authority, because if I don't have the authority, no one can ever accuse me of abusing it. So that's how I feel about that. Next one. 8. The Tombstone Kid. Have you ever fired a gun? Been a gun aficionado, or been shot? I have fired a gun. I fired a gun a couple of times. I was in the Marine Cadets when I was a small kid. Fired a gun there. That was interesting. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't particularly care for it. It was just a thing to do. Like, it's fun enough that I could imagine someone like wanting to go to a range and practice firing a gun. It's a cool skill to learn, but it's not something I go out of my way for. And it feels like any other sport. So, like, as far as I'm concerned, being good with a gun and going to a gun range holds about as much appeal as going to a pub and playing a game of pool. It's something I could go and do with a friend. Like, let's go to the gun range and shoot some targets. Sure, I could do that and I could have fun with it. but I'd have just as much fun going to a pub and playing a game of pool with someone. So it's not worth going through all the hoops, jumping through all the hoops to get a license for a gun, especially in Britain where they're really heavily regulated, in order to do what I would find to be a passable pastime. It's just not worth it for me. So I don't really care for guns. When it comes to like the whole legal aspect of gun laws, that is a can of worms I'm not prepared to get into, because frankly, I don't care. Like, it's not an issue here in Britain, and it is far too important of an issue in America that people put way too much, force and thought into. So I'd rather just not get into it. It's not a thing I think on. So yeah, that's that. 9. It ain't the bullet that gets you; it's the fall. How would you ideally like to cash in your chips? Well, ideally, I'd like to do it very old, in my bed, in my sleep, painlessly, and without my knowledge. That would be the ideal way to go. If not that, I'd like to be, again, very old, and be in a situation where I'm doing something, just sitting in the house, and then I just go, oh, my head, and then feel a bit dazed for a few seconds, and then gone. Where I'm not aware of what's happening, where I don't have any conscious ability to realise, oh, this is it. Like, I want it to be sudden, painless, and for me to not really be aware that it's happening. The thing is, that's just because I've always had this issue with death. Like, my mortality is something that bothers me. The thing is, I am also aware that I was told well over a decade ago, I was told in my mid-20s, that I had about a decade left to live. Because of my condition. I have quite severe Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm also very overweight, which doesn't help. And I was told that my life expectancy was not on the good side. Like, I would probably not hit 40, and I would probably be lucky to make it much past my mid-30s. I am currently 37. So I am very, very aware that I could go tomorrow. Like, I may not have very long left. I may not be around, this time next year. I may not be around this time next week. I could be around for another 50 years. I do not know how long I've got, and I am very, very aware that I have a Schrodinger's life. I'm also very conscious of mortality since my dad died last year. I have become more aware and more flippant when it comes to death as a concept. I know that it's going to happen, and it's something that does bug me and bother me, but it's also made me see the impermanence of life and of pretty much everything. Like, I used to be very, very doggedly caring about preservation of media. Like, I would care that, this TV show or this video game or this book, can't go out of print. You need to have a physical copy. You need to make sure you've got it, because otherwise it'll be gone forever. And that would be a tragedy. To have that thing gone forever. And yes, it would be a tragedy, but it's nowhere near as tragic than having my dad be gone forever. Because he's way more important than any of the things that I'm thinking of, and he's already gone forever. And no amount of preservation's ever going to bring him back. And I'm still coping. It's horrible, but I'm coping. So if I can cope with that, then who cares if that film or that book or that game or, etc. is gone forever. It's just another thing that's gone forever. There's other stuff. There's other stuff that you can find fun and joy and enjoyment in. So that thing's gone. Find joy in something else. Because everything will eventually be gone forever. And I realised when something genuinely precious to me, a person genuinely precious to me, was taken, just gone, I realised that everything will be taken at some point. So, just enjoy it while you've got it. Because you never know how long it'll last. You never know how long you'll last. So every possibility it'll all be gone tomorrow. Because if I'm gone, that's the equivalent of the universe dying from my perspective. So, enjoy what you've got while it lasts. Because you never know how long that'll be. That's my response anyway. And that's a very downer question. I mean, you had to put like the existential death question at the very end, didn't you, Steve? Yeah. Number 10, it's not a question, it's just to tag people. And I'm going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Liam's Lyceum. And I'm going to tag Billy Bonsai. And who else should I tag? Oh, let's have a little look, actually. So I've subscribed to a few new people recently, Booktube-wise. So let's see, who else should I tag? So that's 2. Let's have a little look. So I've got my subscription list. I don't think Brian Lee Davey actually does any of the tags. You know what, I'm going to tag Bald Book Geek. I'm sure I've seen him do Western videos in the past. I'm sure I watched a Western video a week ago by Bald Book Geek. So I'm going to tag Bald Book Geek. And I'm scrolling through all the many booktubers I'm subscribed to. And let's see. You know what? I'm gonna tag someone I've never tagged before. I'm gonna tag Toasty Towns. So that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna tag Toasty Towns, Bald Book Geek, Billy Bonsai, and Liam's Lyceum. So you 4 are tagged. I want to see a Rootin Tootin June on the Range tag, and also I'm going to add a final question: are you taking part in June on the Range? And if so, what books do you intend to read this year? So that's my my additional question that I'm adding on to the end. So I'm looking forward to seeing your videos, should you make them. If I've not named you and you want to take part, go ahead and do the tag anyway. You know, it's all a bit of fun. So I'm going to link the 4 channels I've tagged, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.